Alright guys, motorcycles in the wild here. We're back today with another bike we're really excited to show off. So this is my friend's Triumph Thruxton, and this is his number one go-to bike. He pretty much drives this everywhere, all over downtown, and it fulfills all of his motorcycle needs. So what we want to talk to you about today is a little bit about this bike and some things to expect. It's not a really common bike. I think dealers might only carry like 1 to 2 of these things, so you don't see them around too often. But we want to tell you today what are some things about the bike that are really attractive, and also maybe some problems to expect from the factory. My friend got it. He did have a few issues he had to resolve before it was totally good to go. But in his opinion, it was worth it. So we're going to share with you all those things today. Stay tuned. As Tarek said before, my friend here, this is my daily rider, everything like that. This is a bike that I ride in the city. I used to ride Harleys and everything like that. I had a Harley up until a couple weeks ago, that's a different story, but I sold it. And this is my daily rider. This is my only bike as of now. I chose this bike because I really like the design. I'm really happy with how it rides. I chose the base model, the Triumph Thruxton 1200, not the R, because it comes stock with a lesser suspension. So it's I live in Chicago, so it's a little easier in the city with the potholes and everything like that instead of having the Öhlins upgraded suspension. Another reason why I chose this bike is it just handles great. It's a great riding bike. It's a fast bike. It's not sport bike fast, but it's definitely, it's 100 horsepower. It's got 6 gears. It's a really fun bike to take on twisty turns and stuff like that. There is some problems to keep in mind coming out of the factory when you buy one of these bikes. One of the problems is if you put the bike in neutral and you basically rev it up from like 1,000 to 4,000 really fast, the bike will do like a blip. The throttle will blip, it's called, and then the bike will stall out. I've literally had it happen sometimes like 12 times in a row. It's like an upgrade in the chip you have to do. You have to bring it into it's like $180 sometimes they'll upgrade it for free or update it for free, but it does get costly if you have to ship it in or like have it picked up and brought in. Another issue that I had on these models that you usually have is right here. You have a gear sensor that is under this primary cover, and from 2016 to 2017 it usually leaks on these models. You'll usually see like a little oil leak down here. I don't remember if it's an oil leak. It's an oil leak from a gasket here, and it leaks down into the sensor and destroys the sensor. It doesn't become an issue at first, but once it destroys that sensor, you have throttle by wire on these models, and basically the computer system and everything doesn't register what gear you're in. So you literally have no torque. The bike doesn't know what gear you're in, and whenever you're trying to shift and stuff like that, it gets really awkward. I actually crashed one time. Put the bike down gently because of this issue. Triumph doesn't cover those costs. It's hard to prove that actually happened with this bike insurance-wise and stuff like that. So it's a $380 gear sensor. It's about like a $400 service or whatever to get it done and changed out. But it is definitely a thing you want to take a look at when you buy these models. If they're used, you want to see if there's any oil down there. See if it's already been replaced. If it hasn't, ask if they can replace it. If they don't want to replace it, just have it replaced. It's a lot easier said than done. It's a great bike besides those 2 reasons. Another thing, if you're going to buy these bikes and they're used, I bought this bike used with 400 miles. Make sure that the guy who drove it actually drove it, because for like a year I was like, these brakes, they're really good. They're Triumph's version. I think they're Nissan brakes of Brembo's. They're very good, but when they're not broken in, they basically get glazed over and they literally do not stop you at all. And I was riding Harleys, and the Harleys were stopping better than this bike. And this bike is supposed to be, a bike, a cafe racer that you can take around turns and everything like that, stop on a dime. And it was barely braking. So what they had to end up doing was drive this bike with the brakes held in for like 4 blocks just to heat the brakes up hot enough to get them to actually unglaze themselves and brake in correctly. Those are basically issues that I've had so far. And then, like I said before, with the gear sensor, that is a very dangerous thing, so you should take care of it. Because it does, with these throttle bar wires, it does but it does mess with the computer, and you can't tell what gear you're in. So the amount of torque you have when you let the clutch out and stuff varies, and it will cause you to crash. I came up on a car too quickly. And I went to brake in. Instead of braking and slowing down, I went around the car. But when I let the clutch out, the bike stalled. And so it stopped abruptly, and I had to put it down. I was able to put it down gently and do minimal damage. It just damaged the peg and the brake lever a little bit. And then the engine cover was lightly scratched, not heavily scratched, but that was about it. But those engine covers, it's like a $700 piece from Triumph. If the insurance isn't going to cover it, this is about $200. This is about another $200. So, it is about $1,000 to replace that stuff. So it's a lot cheaper just to replace your gear sensor. Those are the problems you'll see with this bike. If you make sure that they're addressed, or like some of them have been replaced, or address them before you buy the bike, that's a reason to bring down the price. But these are great bikes. I definitely switched over from Harley Davidson as a daily rider to ride these bikes. They're a lot more exciting and everything like that. Why buy this bike? Why buy it over, like a cruiser bike like a Harley Davidson or a BMW R9T? I chose to buy this bike. I just like the overall design. I think it's a very well-designed bike, just the overall look. The lines on it and everything like that. If you look at the R19, it's R9T. It's a little boxier. It's kind of a little more modern. This is more of a heritage-looking bike. If you look at what Harley's doing, a lot of their bikes are more 70s, kind of bobber, and they're going back to like the bobberish, blacked out kind of look on stuff. So is Triumph. They're doing it with the T100s, the T120s. They're doing a blacked out look where they're more of your standard kind of cruiser looking bike, but this, has more of your racy kind of cafe racer look. It's clean lines. It's better than the Ducati Scramblers. They're a little boxy. And it's just something, I think, that's a niche market. It's one of the best looking cafe racer, heritage looking bikes that you can get. I think it's number one besides the TFC Triumph Thruxton. But why I bought it, it's just a well-designed bike, well-handling bike, great horsepower numbers, great brakes, great performance that you get out of it, base model and the upgraded model, the R. Now there's an RS, which I haven't looked at the numbers. But when you buy these bikes for the price, I think the base starts at $1,299, $13,000, and the R starts at $1,499 or $1,599. So you're getting a lot of value for your money. The only thing that I would say when you're buying these bikes, you get around town, maybe go on an hour, 2-hour drive, but traffic and everything with the style of this bike is not going to be too fun on your back. But besides that, these are great bikes to take out, drive around, have fun with. So I'd really recommend this bike.